Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the weekly English shooting live stream. For all you regulars, you know what it's about. But for anybody new, this is your chance to get involved as we talk about all the past week's shooting news and topics, mostly here within the UK, but also internationally. And I want to hear what you guys have to say. If you agree, disagree with me, put it in that chat box. If there are any questions that you have about our laws, shooting, recommendations, whatever, then you've got that chat box. Get involved, ask questions, raise topics. We're here to have a discussion about anything shooting and more. A big welcome back from last week. I hope you've all been able to fill the past week with some shooting. I did manage to sneak up all the way to York to compete in a match, which I'll talk a little bit about in a little bit later on in the stream. So yeah, hope you've all had a fantastic week. I feel I have, despite people's continuous interference with my own shooting and my own business. But there we go. That is life. More importantly, don't forget to hit that like button and make sure you're subscribed. It's free, literally takes 2 seconds, but it makes a huge difference to this channel. It helps us reach new people and get people into shooting, which is ultimately what certainly I'm all about and what this channel is all about. So we have a fairly interesting topic for the main topic this evening. There'll be others that we will move on to, but the NCA has seemingly been very, very busy, and I'm gonna change this setup. I'm gonna try something else because I don't like being necessarily. Oh, that's too small. That doesn't work. I don't like this setup because they put me on the wrong side. What about that? That's better. At least I'm not being held hid by the logo. Can I make myself any bigger? No, I'm just gonna be little Callum. What about that? I'll be on the bottom. What do you think's better? Anyway, I think maybe on the side. Let's go for that. So the NCA, more than 700 firearms recovered in a groundbreaking NCA-led operation. Now, I don't necessarily want to be the negative Nelly, because any illegal firearm out of the hands of a criminal is good, is a job well done. And 700 firearms being recovered by the NCA, and this is a joint operation, I believe, with some Spanish agencies, and mostly the border agencies, as well, as they were potential firearms that were going to be smuggled into the UK. And it's a real mix when we get into it. It's the blank firers that are converted or just used as imitation firearms in robberies, and also real firearms as well that were prevented from being brought into the country. So a job well done. There are 700 firearms that are not in the hands of criminals, that potentially could have been used by criminals for horrendous things. But bearing in mind, here we go. There's always a but, right? But bearing in mind, I think we saw a number recently that estimated there's 1 million illegal firearms within the UK. It's something around that. It was a very, very large number. It's hundreds of thousands, if not into the millions. 700, very small amount. Okay, so let's keep things in perspective here. This isn't necessarily like the haul of the century. And also, when you dive into it as well, it discloses how far. I think it takes a while to actually disclose. So since 2019, the NCA and Gardida Civil, but this operation has been going on since. So the operation name, where was it? So yeah, this project or operation. God, where it's? I found it earlier. There we go. Project Vizardlike. Interesting. I suppose, as police operations go on, they're going to run out of more and more names. Operation Diana. Interesting. But they've been going on. It's been going since 2018. So this is 700 firearms over the course of 5 years, which is averaging at what 140 firearms a year. When you start to put it like that, that's one every 2 days. When you start to put it like that, it doesn't seem a lot. And again, I don't necessarily want to be negative about it because again, fair play, they've got a difficult job to do. They're often dealing with very dangerous people in very dangerous situations. Something that I wouldn't want to do myself. But there seems to be a lot of hoo-ha about this, a lot of publicity, like what a great job the NCA are doing. But a firearm every 2 days over the last 5 years. And what I think is more of an interesting comparison, something that we'll lead on to in a sec, is this story of multiple firearms licensing revoked with Bedfordshire last year. This follows from what we were talking about last week. The main point that I wanted to specifically talk on with this article is this action on armed violence. But within this article, linked to talking about the NCA, was the increase or amount of revocations, the amount of firearms that are being seized each year. So across England and Wales, so not even including Scotland, within England and Wales, there were 418 firearm certificate, this should be firearm certificate revocations in that year. It's also saying, and this is something that was missed off in the articles last that we were talking about last week, 1,161 shotgun licenses. So you're talking, nearly 1,600 licenses were revoked, and I think the average number of firearms per certificate is like 1.5 or 2.5. Let's just round it up to 2, right? Or be fair, let's even 1. If you've got a shotgun certificate or firearm certificate, I think it's a safe average to say they're going to have at least 1 firearm. So on that basis, firearms licensing departments are responsible for 10 times the amount of firearms being taken out of public circulation. And this is the utter sort of madness about the NCA sort of going out there and saying, woo, 700 firearms being, taken out of illegal hands. It's like, no. The firearms licensing departments are taking more firearms out of what were lawful owners' hands. And yes, okay, in those circumstances, the reason they're being revoked is the people have been deemed to not be suitable. And obviously, it's very easy to go and take guns off of somebody if you know where they live, where they're being, where the guns are being stored, and if they flashed up on a police database for being a naughty boy. So yeah, it's sort of apples and oranges, but this inclination that the NCA is doing this massive job and is being praised by all of these news outlets, it's actually significantly diminished when you look at the amount of certificates that are being revoked, when you look at the amount of firearms that were in lawful owners' hands being taken out of circulation. So in the scheme of things, 700 over 5 years is not exactly something to write home about. I would hate to imagine the millions of pounds and the man hours that have been spent on this. And again, 1 firearm out of the hands of a criminal is a job well done, right? But are there potentially better? Could they be doing a better job? Are there other areas of criminality where they could be focusing more for a better yield? But what is interesting is the confirmation that, again, the majority of firearms that are coming into illegal circulation are smuggled in. So they're not coming from certificate holders. They're not coming from within the UK. They're being smuggled across our border. That is, the NCA has been pretty consistent with that over the past few years. So, okay, on one hand, I'm saying, 700, perhaps those, as somebody said, yes, they are. They are rookie numbers. Perhaps we would like to see a big increase in that. But the single greatest sort of entry of firearms to the illegal market is Border Force. They are doing a good job in sense of focusing on the main entry into the illegal market. But we again are seeing the fascination of criminality around the forward venting blank firearms. There's been a lot of talk and a lot of intrigue around this within the UK. They've changed the law on it before. They've been talking about changing the law on it. Again, there are very strict regulation on forward venting blank firearms, and actually a lot of, whilst you're not required to, the NCA are asking all firearms dealers, anybody that sells any blank firearms, is to keep a log of who they're selling to, because they seem to be very, very popular for to criminals to convert. And what we're saying is the forward venting ones are already illegal to possess or import into the UK. So they're technically already illegal. Even if you drill them out and turn them into a viable lethal barreled weapon, you're still in legal possession in the forward venting state. But interestingly, obviously, these the Lugers are not forward venting blank firearms. They are most likely war relics. They're antiques. They are left behind, probably found in somebody's attic, that have ended up into criminals' hands, that are going to be imported. We've got like Uzis, submachine guns being smuggled in. Again, not exactly a forward venting blank fire. That could be a converted blank firer, but revolvers. But interestingly, once again, handguns do seem to be the criminal's choice, and as we will remember, handguns do still account for the largest single. I haven't switched the screen, have I? There we go. I haven't done that for a while. Let's let's bring you back and have a quick recap. So yeah, for talking about forward venting blank firearms. So you've got here these, very much, I'm assuming by the red tips here. So that's the Eagle Jackal dual pistol. I'm assuming that they are the forward venting firearms with the red indicator on the front there. The historic Luger that I was talking about. The submachine guns, machine pistols, whatever you want to call them, revolver, and that just looks like a pretty, well, that's HKP 30. Yeah, again, that's not a blank fire. That has come from, a, well, God knows, could have come from the police, but that is obviously a real firearm ready to go that has been seized. There's also really interesting. I remember to switch the switch the screens. This video as well that I managed to find of a lot of the raids and the seizures as well. That looks like a Ford venting blank firer. I almost thought that was a Desert Eagle then. Yeah, set up. So the ammunition. It's all well and good having the gun. You need the ammunition to make it go bang as well. And actually, some rifle calibers there, pistol calibers, 3D printed firearms. Something that we focus a lot on this channel is, again, I still don't think anybody really has a sensible answer to what I think is going to completely undermine every firearms law ever in existence. Or certainly it's going to make traditional policing efforts and techniques when it comes to firearms completely redundant. And there's going to have to be a very big change in trying to find to prevent the flood of it. A suppressed Glock. It's not just your converted forward venting firearms here. You can see obviously drills, if they're drilling out blank firers, that is like all the tools. Oh, Michichoyo. At least they've got class. The engineer's choice, right? And interestingly, critiquing a workman's tool here, they have both a digital and a mechanical vernier calipers. At least these guys seem fairly competent. Like, no, I am not endorsing, for one second, I'm not endorsing what these guys are doing. But I have to say their engineering approach, I do approve of. Because you never fully trust digital. Trust me. You never trust digital. You always have a mechanical pair to back up. But yeah, in terms of the guns, back on it, Callum. Yeah, I can't really make out what they are. Potentially a Glock there. That seems. I'm pretty sure. Is that a K? No, is that a gram power? It looks very gram powerish. Potentially a Glock. Potentially a Glock. Again, it's Glock. It seems to be the most popular fire. Oh, that's a better view. Yeah, they look very, very glocky. And that looks very, very gram power. So again, those aren't necessarily blank firers that have been converted. Revolver again, that doesn't look like it's been a blank firer. And interestingly, again, like look at the ammunition here, right? Everybody says, like, I'm moving it back onto 3D printed firearms, right? Everybody says, "Oh, yeah, you can print whatever gun you want, unless you've got the ammunition to put in it. Um, you, it's useless, right? Just have a look at some of the components. This isn't ordinary reloading components here, right? Almost looks like air gun pellets, very much like quite significant air gun pellets there, and maybe some lead BBs, and I think those are blank rounds. So you can sort of put one and one together here of what's going on, and that is pretty much a limitless supply of ammunition for your illegal firearms, whether you are converting them from blank firers or you're printing them from 3D printers. Again, you can see the sort of projectiles that they're, how, and look, that is, if you were to go to the range and pull that out, if you were to go to the range and somebody next to you pulled that out at the bay over to you, you would run a mile, wouldn't you? You would be like, I am not going to be around here when those start going off. That is jank. That is the jankiest ammunition sort of holder I've ever seen. Looks like potentially some proper ammunition. Well, again, those look very homemade. Those look like they're about to be very homemade. And you got some 2.2 rimfire. I mean, let's be honest, guys. 2.2 rimfire gets everywhere. Like police are probably shocked. Oh my god, they've got actual live rounds. These aren't homemade. These are a real deal. No. Ask my washing machine. Ask my washing machine. My washing machine will verify how easy it is to lose a 2.2. Or the back of a car or down the side of your range bag. So I don't know if there's any more. Is this? I didn't actually watch it. So this might be a converted converted gun. It did look a little bit odd. Again, the huge number. It's just like, okay, I get it. Again, every gun taken out of criminals' hands is a good job, fair play, right? But this whole it averages at 140 a year. Like, come on. And that actually looks like, that almost looks like an air gun. I really should have watched this video. I didn't catch it. So what was that? Gas alarm. That's one way to wake up in the morning. I'm guessing that's some sort of like self-defense, like BB gun, maybe? I don't know. What even is that? Or is that another blank firer? But the fact that they're testing it, like they wouldn't necessarily test what is that pack? I think those are potentially blank firers as well. Oh no, Cal 9mm. I think the pack does ring a bell. Maybe it is. Let's get to the testing, because they don't go around necessarily testing like, a 9mm firearm, like a normal 9mm pistol. They usually, for forensic and testing, they take a modified or converted gun to see actually how well it functions, and if it is indeed a lethal barreled weapon. I do like their they're obviously their dummy there. Apparently, a can of Monster Ultra does simulate the the human anatomy quite well. Who knew that? Yeah, that's what even is I'm intrigued. Let's see if I can find it again. What was it called? Mm, It is Zoranki. Zoranki. And what was the model of it? Enhance. 9. Why won't you enhance? Why won't you zoom? Zoom in. I'm already zoomed in. Okay. That's all the enhancing that we're gonna get. I think that's a 925. Let's see. Why is the first thing that comes up on Google why is the first thing when you search it is oh Zoraki. No, I didn't want to do that. But the first thing literally you type it in and it comes up conversion. Zoraki 95 full auto blank gun. I mean, it sounds fun. So yes, so that is yeah, PAC pack. It's a blank gun, full auto. Oh come on, let's have a we'll have a little watch. I have to mute it because Vimeo. Let's try this. Okay, it is muted. So yeah, that is the same. I mean, I sort of want one. To be honest, that does look pretty cool. That does look pretty fun. Um, you can see the venting. You see those sparks. Okay, so that is a blank gun that has been. I mean, that is actually pretty scary. You know, the rate of fire of that. If you were to convert that to 9mm to convert it to your, you know, to a live fire gun, and criminals can get hold of that, you know, that is pretty scary. So that is what they are testing there. Let's switch back to that video. That is what they're testing here. I mean, that is an effective weapon. For anybody that says, you know, a blank firer with homemade ammunition is not effective, tell that to the poor old monster can, which again simulates human flesh perfectly. Again, there's who knew that one. So yeah, again, I can't reiterate enough. I don't necessarily want to go out there and be negative Nelly. 700 guns off the streets is fantastic by the NCA. In the scheme of things, have overall a very small difference. But then, what are they meant to do? Just sit there and let them come in? It is potentially worrying that more legal firearms have been confiscated or seized in that time than the NCA are stopping in coming in illegally. But then, as we know, the majority of crime is committed by illegal handguns. The majority of death by handguns here in the UK are due to illegal firearms, and still the single highest proportion of firearm offences are committed with handguns, which were banned in 97. So there's the rationale and the reasoning behind everything. Anyway, what are you guys saying? What are you guys thinking? Let's Jen, we will get on to the next topic very soon. Hey, you coming back to the US to shoot anytime soon? Got a couple of new things since you dropped by Missouri. Awesome. Well, I won't turn that down. In terms of the next trip, at the moment there's nothing planned. We've in terms of shooting trips, we've got Greece coming up soon for the European Handgun Championships, and there's Thailand. Still not exactly 100% sure if I will be going out to Thailand, but I've got a spot. You know, it's partly paid for already, so we will hash that out. Just depends if we can make things work at work. But yeah, so Greece and Thailand. I don't think I'm necessarily going to be able to justify or squeeze in any more shooting or any more abroad trips then. But I do like to try and get out to America at least once a year. I know, oh woe is me, but yeah, so maybe next year at some point, even if it's just a week, maybe two, somewhere doing a little tour about. That would be, that would be good. And stop by Missouri again and have some full auto goodness. That's still the best day on the range that I've had, hands down. I still get giddy over it. John Evans, not an anniversary that anybody wants to, or Johnny Evans, not an anniversary that anybody wants to to celebrating my 1 year anniversary of when I applied for my SGC. Still not got it. Maybe by the second anniversary. Yeah, it is not good. I mean, mine's been in since 2020, October 2020, I think it is. So, you know, at least you're still better than me. What are you guys saying? Evening, all these raids make you think how many raids turn up propellant and explosives. Wow. Black guinea pig getting very, very spicy straight away. Never never trust digital, says the man on the internet. Never trust digital metrology equipment. Like, as somebody that's dealt with a lot of it, old school is the best. Like, seriously, you can trust strange men on the internet though. 100% do it. Oh well, Grand Power make parlor pistols that are sold without a license in parts of Europe. Not hard to convert those to larger calibers. Sounds like you're in the know, Black Guinea Pig. You're now on a watch list. 9mm packs are blanks. Thank you, Blackstone. That is what I thought. Has the king allowed you to possess G code over there? So for those that might not get that, I mean, I'm Gabriel. Fair play. I get the reference. G code is what 3D printers use. So G code is basically the code that tells the printing head to go where it needs to go to make the shape that you want to make. So when you design something in CAD, you know, you'll have your 3D model, which is what you edit, what you create. And then you usually export that to an STL file, and an STL is just a certain format of a 3D model. You can then put that into sort of a G code generator. You put that, it's usually like it helps you, it's usually software from the printer that you're able to sort of position and, you know, duplicate across the print bed if you want. It's different 3D printing techniques have different sort of software, and you can do different things with them. Like an SLS machine, you've got this bounding volume box that you can work in all 3 dimensions and place things. It's quite funky. And then you hit go, and it will generate a file to send to the printer, which is G code. And theoretically, if you had a same sort of printer type, you'd be able to take a G code from one printer to another, and it would work. It's just, obviously there's usually some specifics depending on the exact printer that you're using, and that's why, you know, different brand printers will have different software to lay out on the print bed. But yeah, G code is what tells the printer to go and instructs the printer to print. So in terms of the king allowing you to possess G code, you naughty boy. We're allowed to possess a G code. It's just what that G code contains. If that G code is to print a, I don't know, what do people normally print when they first get penises? Every time, every guy that gets a 3D printer, I can guarantee within the first few, maybe it's just me, maybe it is just me, but in the first few prints, definitely a penis is coming out there. You know, it's just standard. Anybody that visits Maglode in the near future, anybody that has visited Maglode in the past, there has always been a number of 3D printed penises about how professional of an organization we are. There have always been a number of penises floating about the unit, and not myself, Connors, and Paul. That's in addition, and additional penises floating about the workshop and the office. So next time you drop in, keep an eye out for those sneaky 3D printed penises. They've got magnets on them as well, which makes them really fun. You can move them about and stick them in all sorts of places. Not like that. Anyway, this is a segue that I did not need to head down. Take me with you to Missouri. Already done that, Aaron. You know what, you were there. and we've just about to caught up. So the next topic, this is an interesting one, if I'm going to be completely honest, and it's like it shows, we have an expression, or certainly I have an expression, that you are treated guilty until proven innocent here in the UK if you are a firearms owner, no matter how upstanding you are. And this is, we were talking about this the other week, and I do tend to talk about this all the time, in terms of the need to have legal expenses insurance, the need to have the need to have the mentality that as a certificate holder here in the UK and a firearms owner here in the UK, anything can happen to you at any moment. It's not about, oh, if I never do anything bad, nothing bad will ever happen to me. No, you can be in the wrong place at the wrong time for no fault of your own and find yourself in a really difficult situation that you will then need insurance for. You will need legal expenses, and that has happened to a group of lawful pigeon shooters. This story's come out of Field Sports channel, again a fantastic channel for all things field sporties, as the name would suggest. I've been subscribed for a very, very long time. I think they were actually the first UK shooting channel I ever subscribed to, and I used to religiously tune in every Wednesday, I think it was. But obviously, as I got more into practical shooting and less into shooting in general, as it were. It became less specific. So basically, it's got a little video here. Pinned from Field Sports channel. Basically, group of pigeon shooters out in the Greater Manchester area were literally just out there minding their own business. They are on land that they have had permission to. I mean, oh. Okay, finger is off the trigger. That one might not be. But yeah, maybe be careful where you're pointing that. Maybe not at your colleague's foot. So yeah, a group of shooters, pigeon shooters out there in the field on a permission, on land that they have permission to be on, and suddenly armed police, a significant amount of armed police. And again, people always say, oh, do the police take care of your guns if they confiscate them? Where was it? Just see it. Does it look like this officer's being particularly careful with them? So yeah, the pigeon shooters, they're not doing anything wrong. They have permission to be out there. And a significant amount of armed police turned up, apparently with riot shields, with their guns drawn, because of a report of a concern from somebody. So it's like, okay, I get it. On one side, the police get a call saying there are a load of guys with guns in a field. Now, doesn't really take a genius to work out that if you're in a rural area, certainly on farmland, the chances of being out out in the field and seeing people with firearms is certainly shotguns, certainly with pigeon hides, is fairly common. It's not like necessarily out of the ordinary, and the police should certainly know this, right? So they rock up, but of course they've had a report. There's firearms. They need to go and check it out and double check. James Crowther was one of the guys that was that was there. So I mean, to be honest, no, I'm not. I'm not even going to go there. I'm not even going to go there. It's not exactly the most competent approach. So I get it. They've had a concern, mate. They've had concerns raised. It still makes me nervous just waving a gun like that around. But anyway, they've had this concern raised, and they need to go and check it out, right? And they need to confirm whether everything is above board, and there's no threat to the public, and that everybody is licensed, and they're also maybe make sure that they do actually have permission to be on the land. And as it turns out, they were all able to produce their firearm certificates or their shotgun certificates. They were able to produce ID. They were able to confirm that they were in lawful possession of those firearms. The farmer who owns the land even comes out and ends up confirming as well that they have permission, that he had asked them to come out to do some pest control. And it's in the pissing rain. Like, you do have to be half mad to go and sit in a hide in the pissing rain to shoot some pigeons, right? It's not, and most criminals can't be asked if it's a little bit damp out there. And the police, instead of looking at it like, oh, they've been able to produce shotgun certificates, the landowner has come out and corroborated their story separately, and everything seems to be in order here. What do? They confiscate the guy's guns. They take the guns away, right? And I think this was a couple of um, a couple of weeks ago now, and they are still yet to have their property returned. So, like what other investigation do they need to do here? The firearms or shotgun certificates have been produced. They've been able to show that they have lawful authority to possess. It's been confirmed that they are on the land lawfully and with permission. And this is just the mentality again that the police, when it comes to lawful firearm owners here within the UK, you are guilty until you are proven innocent. And this is why it's so important to not have this blasé attitude of, if I never do anything wrong, I'll never have an issue. Because these guys weren't doing anything wrong, right? They had their certificates on them. They were using guns that they were lawfully entitled to be using. They had permission. They were able to demonstrate permission. The farmer even came out and confirmed they had permission, doing everything right. Not even close to doing anything questionable or grey. And yet armed police come out of nowhere, guns drawn, confiscate your guns, and effectively steal your property that you're in lawful possession of because it's guns, because they're not 100% because they're not 100% sure, or maybe not even that they're not 100% sure. They don't actually know what they're talking about. They don't know what they're looking about. They don't know what they're looking at, and because of that, they are unsure. And the safest thing for them to do is to take the guns away. And I absolutely hate that this is the sort of mindset of the police, and this is the world that we unfortunately live in. As firearms owners, that we will always be, well, until something changes, we will always be treated guilty until proven innocent. How long is it going to be? How long are these people going to be without their firearms, right? Without their property? The farmer has asked them to come out and do a job which they're no longer able to do because they've had their equipment taken away. So the farmer loses out. The farmer is going to potentially lose crops, could lose livestock because of pests, because people aren't there able to go out and pest control. He might have to even go and find other people. They might lose their permission. The firearm, if they don't have their guns and they're going to have to get somebody else in, they might lose their permission. They might lose the ability to shoot on that. And there's just so many negative consequences that aren't even thought about by the police. And also, put yourselves in these guys' shoes. You're out there shooting and suddenly armed, you're stood there holding a gun and armed police come up. It must be absolutely terrifying what those guys went through. And if that's not bad enough to then have your stuff, it should be instantaneous. At the absolute very, very worst case, it should be the next day. It should be take things back, phone up firearms licensing, or certainly the next working day, phone up firearms licensing, go, we've got this serial number, this person, yes, this is on their record. I tell you what probably is going on here, right? If I was going to give some sort of speculation, apart from the fact that the police always treat us innocent until proven guilty. And I've experienced this numerous times. So they rock up and they need to check that these guys have lawful authority for these guns. Now, okay, it will be written or should be written on their certificate, the serial number, make and model of these guns. How much do you want to bet that they've reported the buying of these guns, written it onto their ticket, and it's all should be in the system? How much do you want to bet that when the police have actually gone to ring up firearms licensing or bring up the data from the various logs that there are, that it hasn't been updated and these guns aren't actually listed on these guys' certificate on their own systems? And this has happened so many times to myself. I've sat down with police and they've said, "Oh, you've only got 3 or 4 guns," and I'm like, "No, I've got 7 or 8 at the time." And it's like, "Well, one you won't know about because I've recently bought it," but it's like, no, you were out by a factor of 2. when guns were confiscated, they didn't have a clue what I had, or they certainly didn't seem to be that particularly interested that they hadn't accounted for a Section 1 shotgun, and it was only me going, "Oh, hey guys, you know, you're not going to ask me about this Beretta 1301? Oh, yes, I think perhaps we should." Yeah. Ooh. Um, so yeah, it might be one of these cases that due to a clerical or admin error on the police's side, it caused them doubts. Themselves doubts. But it's still utterly ridiculous. Again, that's no fault of these guys. They've got certificates that should, by all means, have the serial numbers and these guns written on. You should present that, and that should be it. So again, anybody that wants to sit there and say, "Oh, I'm never going to find myself in trouble because I always abide the law and I don't put myself in situations that um, I might be approached by the police." Well, if you regularly go out pigeon shooting, well, you're putting yourself in a position where you might have armed police turn up one day. Even if you put your guns in your boot, you're in a position where a neighbor might see you and phone the police. Again, that's one that I hear all too many times, where a neighbor, armed police have turned up and gone, "Where are the guns?" And they're like, "Oh, in the safe where they're meant to be." "Oh, we've had reports of somebody unloading firearms into the house." "Well, yeah, because I was at the range and I've come back from the range and now I'm putting the guns back in the safe." "Oh, well, we better take the guns." Seriously, that I've had a number of people get in contact with me, very similar situations to that. Again, no fault of their own. It's not like they've got the firearms out in the open. They're all slipped, they're all bagged, they're all cased, but they're taking the guns into the house, and a neighbor just goes, "That guy's got a lot of guns and he's unloading them into the house." Armed police get called, but because there's been a complaint, because there's a suspicion of illegal or concerning activities, they take the guns anyway. Again, you can do absolutely everything by the book. You can, yeah, never say boo to a goose. It doesn't matter. If you are a certificate holder here in the UK, if you own firearms, make sure you have legal expenses insurance, and make sure you are prepared for the eventuality of the police one day asking you to hand over your firearms. Bullet and pixels. This is a very, very, very valid point, and something I should have remembered to say as well. So thanks for bringing it up. Whenever I'm doing pest control, I always contact 101 and get them to put it on the log for the day, my location, and roughly when I'll be shooting, and a contact number. Absolutely, this is probably the best thing that you can do to potentially prevent armed police or police turning up. It's still not 100% foolproof. You can still tell them that if they have a member of the public saying that they're concerned about somebody with a gun out in the open, they are going to send the police regardless. Yes, they might have a bit more of a softly approach because they're aware, or they might even be able to phone you back and warn you that they're on the way to come and check it out. But the police, when it comes to firearms, are just so incredibly risk averse that if there's any sort of report, well, apart from if you work in Devon and Cornwall firearms licensing department, but anyway, they're so risk averse that in the actual police, and certainly armed police, if they have a report of somebody with a firearm out in the open, and a member of the public has concern, they're not going to go, "Oh, it'll be all right. Yeah, so and so told us that he would be out there with a gun on 101." Again, I still think it's very much worth doing, but don't have it in your head that just because you phone 101 means that you're never going to have the um, police turn up. Lock. Fields near me have spots where all the barley has been flattened. It's caused by wood pigeons where they rest and where they knock down the stalks to eat the ears. Absolutely, like pests like pigeons and crows, magpies, and all of that can do horrendous damage to crops. It can do horrendous damage to livestock. We saw this firsthand when we had the big issue with Chris Packham, and he's still a big issue, to be honest. But he ended up instigating the revocation of or the withdrawal of the general licenses. The damage that we were seeing being done to crops and livestock was just absolutely incredible. It was, you know, I've always known that, and I've always been aware, whilst it's not something that I do a huge much or have done a huge amount myself, hugely aware of the, you know, the importance of pest controlling. But to see it during that period, just, you know, the photos, the stories, the videos, was absolutely incredible. I really had no idea the extent of the potential damage that can be done by these pests, and therefore the importance of pest controllers. The real, you know, they really are vital to to the countryside and farming. You can't have efficient farming, effective farming without pest control. Alexander Dale, my neighbour saw me loading my car on Sunday. He's coming shooting with me next week. Always look for the opportunity to introduce people to the new sport. Well, this is a positive flip side to maybe a nosy neighbour having a look at what you're doing, right? Like, are those firearms? Yes, I shoot. Don't worry, it's all, yeah, it's perfect, absolutely perfect. I love that. Yes, you can have a negative you know, experience with a neighbor phoning the police, but a neighbor actually taking an interest in your hobby and coming and joining you, absolutely perfect. We That's what we need more of, you know. Just I've said it so many times, once people find out about this sport, they find out about, you know, you're not a raving nutter for wanting to go and shoot a gun. um you know, they're like, they come on board so quickly once they've gone and pulled a trigger. It's like, okay, right, where do I sign up? Where do I get these? So fantastic work, Alexander. That's great to hear. Hammy H, you're spot on. No crime committed, therefore guns were stolen, not seized. I'd be straight on to a lawyer. I would be too. There's actually a story. He's posted it publicly, so I'll talk about this. I thought about maybe making like the main topic, but it's not technically to do with firearms about this. I'll get on this for a sec. Would rubber bucky be legal in the UK? Um, so I guess you mean like crowd control buckshot, like rubber buckshot. Um, Technically, nothing is illegal in the UK. It's just about, you know, just like being able to, you know, weld up your own Glocks and make them go full auto is highly illegal in many different cases, unless you have the right licensing. Um, so rubber bucky or buckshot or crowd control buckshot or yeah, less than lethal, any less than lethal ammunition. Let's just make it more generalized like that. Is Section 5 here within the UK? So that is, you know, police, military usage. A normal, you know, normal recreational shooter would not have the authority to be able to possess buckshot here in the UK. Less than lethal rounds are considered, well, less than lethal rounds are for self-defense, right? And therefore they become an offensive weapon. And this is like the weird thing about the UK. Yes, when you can have a firearm certificate, you can have a shotgun certificate, you know, you can have authority to go and buy slug, solid 1 ounce slug. You can go and have, you know, with a shotgun certificate, you can go and buy 9 ball buckshot, right? Lead buckshot. But you turn those balls to rubber and suddenly you end up in prison. It's like, sorry, no. I can own slug, but a beanbag round or rubber bucky or whatever, suddenly I'm going to prison. It's like, you know, some things make sense some of the time. That to me just doesn't. I mean, it makes sense in the sense that you would only have it for self-defense purposes. Having anything for the purpose of self-defense here is against the law because it becomes an offensive weapon, and it's illegal to possess an offensive weapon. So yeah, a long answer short, it's not permissible for average people to own here in the UK. It's police and military only, or dealers of police and military ammunition and equipment that would have it, which is, I'd say, a shame. Like, I'm acting like I'm really hard done by, and I'm really annoyed that we can't own rubber buckshot. I can only think of a couple of things I would end up actually ever using rubber buckshot for, and to be honest, neither's going to end well for anyone. Like, maybe instead of some full auto, we'll play with some rubber buckshot. Like, seriously, rubber buckshot. Like, this is the thing. That this is. I'll put it in comparable terms. Rubber buckshot is as difficult to get hold of here in the UK as a full auto. It's the same license. You need the same license to possess rubber buckshot or less than lethal ammunition as what you do to be able to own a full auto machine gun. Like, that's how really anti less than lethal rounds our police and government and home office are. Like, they put it in the same category as full auto machine guns. It's like, ah. But then saying that, tasers are in the same category. Technically, even blowpipes are in the same category. Technically, truncheons are in the same category. Anyway, you sort of, you get the point. I swear I saw a point that I got distracted there. Somebody made a point, and I was gonna get onto it, but it slipped my mind. And anyway, there we go. Just a quick reminder, guys, to hit that like button. It's free. We've got nearly double the amount of people watching than have hit that like button. So if you're watching and not liking while you're watching, so if you're watching, you must be liking. So hit that like button. It's free. It takes a few seconds, and it makes a big difference to sharing. Oh, that's what I was going to talk about. I was going to talk about the very interesting story that's come out of a range owner here in the UK. I really hope he doesn't mind me talking about it, but he's plastered it all over Facebook, so I'm not going to bring it up because I think it was on his personal, but it's public, but it's on his personal profile. Anyway, I'm sure he doesn't mind because he's made it public. But anyway, hit that like button because this is barking, right? So a lot of people know. I've talked about it here on the channel a bunch of times. The Phoenix range up in Barnsley. It's a fantastic facility. I would really highly recommend anybody that's in that area. If you find yourself in that area, go and check it out. It is it's fantastic. It's really a great range. And if you're looking for a local club and you're in that area, then please go and check it out. And you've got a great club on your door. But yeah, in terms of the whole, if you have lawful authority to possess something and the police take it off you, it's theft, not a seizure. Yeah, not a seizure like that. It was, taking something. So there was this story. So yeah, Phoenix range up in Barnsley. The owner put out this story on Facebook. It's absolutely incredible, but also so believable. Oh, 26, Sam Davison, appreciate the support. When you were in school, did anybody ever say they were being chased away of a farm of fields by farmers with rice loaded in their shotguns? When you when you were in school, did anybody ever say they were chased away from fields by farmers with rice loads in their shotguns? No, no. I'd never. I had been out in the fields and we'd hear gunfire, but no, I've never heard that story. It depends, I guess, if you are, maybe you're out in America, maybe that's a little bit more common. But no, haven't ever heard that before. But again, thank you for I think I've got what you mean by rubber bucky now. But yeah, thank you for the support, much appreciated. I mean, technically, yes. Okay, yeah, technically it's still rubber buckshot, and technically it's still a less than lethal round. But I get what you mean. It's literally just clicked. This is rubber bucky, isn't it? Yes, this is what you meant. Buckshot filled with rubber duckies. Yes, I absolutely have to. 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 I absolutely have I have to shoot some of that. Genuinely have to shoot some of that. I'd also love to do some Dragon's Breath. We actually bought some last time. I think you remember. And I think at the range we weren't allowed to use it at your range. And then we found out we weren't also allowed to use it at the range that we went to. So we ended up having this Dragon's Breath that never got used and just rolled in the back of the car for 3 weeks, which is slightly disconcerting. What else? Oh, yeah, that's right. I was going to say, what else was it rolling against? That would be the pound of tannerite that we had in the back as well. So, yeah. And the whatever you bought, Dan, whatever those bloody drinks were. God, what were they called? Those big, like, God, they're like wine, like an energy drink wine. And you bought like 5 of them, had half of one, threw it away, and then we had 4. So we had 4 cans of this highly potent alcoholic energy drink smashing around the back of the minivan with a pound of tannerite and Dragon's Breath. How and the thing is, that wasn't even the most dangerous part of the trip. How we ended up surviving, that trip is a miracle. And it's literally just clicked that we were driving around with a pound of tannerite and anyway, we're here so we can laugh about it now. No, it's we're okay. We can laugh about it now. We're okay. Movie quote. You'll get a lot of respect from me if you know where that's from. We can laugh about it now. We're okay, or we're all right. I'll give you another hint. Where's your other hand? Anybody that gets that reference, you're good in my book. But yes, so rubber bucky is buckshot, is it's Reaper defense. Less than lethal. I guess it's less than lethal. I mean, there are some sort of balls in there as well. Oh no, it says literally warning, lethal round. It is lethal buckshot with little rubber duckies in it. I mean, what a way to go. Could you imagine that on the police report? Broke into somebody's home and got hit at 1,000 FPS by a rubber ducky to the cranium. Like, yeah, I remember seeing this ages ago. Would absolutely love. But yes, in terms of your original question, would rubber bucky? I mean, it says it's a lethal round. Would rubber bucky be defend your home in a humorous way? That is, oh, oh God, yeah, God bless America. Defend your home in a humorous way and add insult to injury. These rounds contain 3 frangible resin ducts surrounded by plastic, 0.2 gram precision airsoft BBs. Be sure to quack the first responder up when they respond to the scene. The first look is fun and games, but these are not toys. Keep her out of reach of children. I mean, plastic BBs and frangible resin ducts. Like, is that likely? Like, I'm sure it could be lethal, but would it be lethal the majority of the time? I don't know. See, this is the crazy thing. Is like, technically, if it was a lethal round and it was intended to be like a target round, then it would technically be legal. But I think that there's definitely, at the very least, going to be a spirit of the law sort of thing with this. I don't think you're going to have a good time if you end up in court and you need to explain to a judge why you were in possession of buckshot rounds with little rubber duckies in them. That apart from the lols, I don't see that going very well for anybody. So I'm probably going to land this one under definitely not safe for UK consumption. I certainly wouldn't be buying any to bring back. That's for sure. Again, the crazy thing, if you were to pour resin into it and make it, like, if you were to pour wax into it and make it a solid slug, technically it would fall under Section 1 ammunition being a slug. Just Just saying. But no, I would not advise anybody. Um, I would not advise anybody trying to get hold of that in the UK. It will end up going badly. David Kiddle, we shot Dragon's Breath. I'm pretty sure you told me you couldn't there. Well, next time. Yeah, Daniel, that was my ammunition. We know. Oh yes, the 4 Loco. Those were the bastards. It wasn't the same compared to what it was like before. The NY stuff was lethal. What do you mean the NY stuff? It clicked for you. You don't realize how quiet I kept myself considering that stuff was a foot away from me. Arian. So for context, for those who aren't aware, both Daniel and Arian were out in the States with us, with myself and Connors for this trip, and they were the ones that shared the experience in the in the minivan. It clicked for you. You didn't realize how quiet I kept myself considering that stuff was a foot away from me every time I was in the van. I'm surprised we didn't see those in those Amsterdam duck shots. What Amsterdam duck shots? I've never been to Amsterdam. Don't know what you're talking about. Brian, I'm not shouting. Callum always ignores me. Sorry, Brian. What were you saying? Anyway, it doesn't matter. Let's move on. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. Brian, what have you been saying? I can't actually. What's your question? I'm in Cornwall, by the way. They checked I had FAC from vehicle reg before coming to me. I honestly don't intentionally ignore you. I'm sure Dan's used to it by this point. Brian, I think I don't know what question you were asking, Brian. Let me anyway, I hear you. I hear you. Brian, I've been following English shooting since 2050. You've been there from the very beginning. Fair play. I and thank you. Nitsa 4 Loco is available in Northern Ireland. That's either that is either a reason to go back to Northern Ireland very, very soon, or to never visit Northern Ireland ever again, especially with Dan. Arian misplacing the F with a D when talking about Amsterdam duck shops. Look, what Arian gets up to in his weekends away is completely up to him. But yes, is Rubber Bucky UK legal? I am going to say no on that one. I still haven't got to the story. Here we go. The UK range story. Right. So Phoenix shooting range up in Barnsley, run by a great guy called Glenn, who seems to always find himself in really interesting interesting situations with interesting stories. Highly recommend friending him on Facebook. He's probably not going to like me for saying that, but anyway, so he has this story. He posted this on Facebook, and again, it was like, you've got to be joking, you've got to be kidding, but it's completely believable and true. The guy, he has no reason to make this up, but you can just go, yeah, that makes complete sense. I'm not shocked at all. So I believe he had a Range Rover that was parked in, I think it was his secure compound behind the range. It was either a different compound or the compound out the range. Anyway, some delinquent decides to jump over the fence, break into the car, and apparently falls asleep within this guy's. Now, the only reason I'm telling you this is because the guy owns a really good shooting range, and it's vaguely related for shooting, and I think happened in a shooting range car park. But anyway, so this delinquent falls asleep in the back of the car. Police end up getting called, end up surrounding this secure compound. Now, the secure compound turned out not to be so secure for this delinquent, because he ended up hopping the fence and getting into the back of Glenn's car and falling asleep. But it was very secure for the police, and the police couldn't get over the same fence somebody else had just got over. So I believe they ended up waiting it out. Guy ends up waking up, sees that there's a load of police the other side of the fence, and ends up going over the other side of over to the other side of the compound, jumps over another fence, and disappears into the distance. He then let's make sure it's like not Glenn. Um, Glenn messaging me there going, no, I don't want this story told. Anyway, I'm sure we'll hear about it if he doesn't like it. But anyway, so the guy goes right. So the police end up getting access to the compound, and they're like, right, there's going to be a load of DNA evidence in the back of his car. I hope there's not too much for the sake of Glenn. But anyway, ends up saying, well, what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to take the car. For forensic analysis, because hopefully we can find some DNA in the back there. There's tools that he's used to break in and whatever. And then, I think they also managed to collect a guy who was like a known criminal, down the road. So it was like one on one together. This guy's wandering about in the middle of the night, and there was a car that was broken into, whatever. So, but they need to tie him to the car. They don't have the evidence that it was actually him. So they need to go and get some forensics. So they end up seizing the car, right? They end up taking the forensic, taking it to the forensic labs. And I'll get the time. So he says the police seized my car and took it away for a forensic examination. I called a month later asking if I can have my car back. Officer said he's not dealing with it anymore, and someone else had contacted me. Nothing. So I called again, the numerous calls and texts. I wrote officially asking for my vehicle back as it's been 5 months. So 5 months later, after taking his car for evidence, after it being broken, like he's the victim here. Like, just, I know it's pretty crystal clear, but he's the victim on this one. No letter, no investigation update as a victim of crime, no receipt for the Range Rover when seized, and then I get a letter from DVLA. So the what does the DVLA actually stand? Driving license, driving driver and vehicle licensing agency here in the UK. It's like the DMV in America, right? So the DVLA end up sending him a message, sending him a letter saying that his vehicle is being transferred to a new owner. Calls DVLA. They say they cannot comment. You need to contact the police. He calls the police, and the police says, apologies. In my 23 years being a police officer, I've never seen such a fuck up in all my life. Your car has been sold at auction to pay for its storage charges. So after a brief chat about, I mean, the story sort of gets better and sort of has a nice ending, but they end up seizing this guy's car to do forensic analysis. 5 months later, go, oh, this guy hasn't collected his car, so we're going to sell it, right? Meanwhile, the criminals got off completely. The actual criminal here, apart from the police stealing Glenn's car, he's got off scot-free, supposedly. Like I can only imagine, but Glenn is now down a rather expensive Range Rover. So after a brief chat about the theft act, selling a vehicle that doesn't belong to you, proceeds of crime act, and benefiting from the crime in selling my vehicle, and also data protection act, where they passed my personal details onto a private storage company who they gave the car to, he went quiet. You cannot make this up. The only good sound advice he gave me was to seek legal advice and engage complaints procedure through the Force HQ. Anyway, to console himself, he ended up going to the pub for a good drink. Then, whilst drunk, ended up going on eBay and bought a Bentley Continental Titan Black GT 6-litre 12-cylinder twin turbo 600 brake horsepower 200 mile per hour supercar. As you do, feel better now. Dolly approves the new ride. It's just like, it's one of that must be like one of the best Facebook stories I've ever pop up. And I think, for anybody that's like outside the UK and is going, really, like, how bad can it be? That's right. They take your car to try and catch the criminal that broke into it, end up effectively losing the car, handing it off to some storage company, not telling you that it needs to be collected, and then it ends up getting sold to cover these storage fees because they weren't actually doing it. It's just like, you cannot make this stuff up. But anyway, that's, again, the only reason I'm talking about that is because he owns a gun shop in a gun range within the UK. It's just like absolutely, it's just unbelievable. Daniel, honestly, I am not surprised. Like, neither am I. Like, I'm not shocked. I'm not surprised. I'm not shocked. I'm just sort of absolutely blown away in some respects. It's yeah. Anyway, it's a little segue. So we actually, a couple of admin points. A lot of you more recently have been asking about a podcast. Now, it's part of the reason that we had Arian on last week. I'm sure if I'd have asked him very nicely, he would have come on this weekend as well, or this week, despite the fact that he was late. But we do now have like, what I do want to do is get more regular guests on here. So if you're watching this and you've maybe got some stories that you want to share, you want to come on and chat, you want to challenge me, any gun control network, you want to come on here, we'll be talking about you in a second. Anyone from Basque? Anybody? No takers? Anybody that wants to come on and just chat about shooting, whether you necessarily agree with me or disagree with me, literally anybody, if you want to come on here, everybody's welcome, wankers and all. So yes, I do want to get have a bit of a piece each week where we get somebody on. Maybe it's just for 15 minutes, maybe it's for half an hour, 45, maybe it's an hour, maybe it's for the whole stream. But it would be great. I do like it when we have guests and we we can bounce off each other and we can have a good conversation. It's something refreshing for you guys as well. But anyway, so to make it a little bit more podcasty, because usually podcasts have more than one person, but people have been asking whether you can whether we can turn this into a audio only, so that you don't necessarily have to sit here and watch the full thing. You can listen to it on the way home. And there is now the English Shooting podcast over on Spotify. This is all thanks to Arian. Thank you very much, Arian, for creating this and uploading it. And he has selflessly volunteered himself to forevermore upload the audio of any live stream onto the Spotify. So I have to say, I have never listened. Oh, that's there we go. That was pretty simple. I've never listened to a podcast on Spotify. I am much more of a YouTuber, as you probably can tell or guess, because you're on YouTube right now, if you didn't know. Or maybe you're listening to this on the podcast. So then you're not on YouTube, you're on Spotify. So I guess I'm a Spotifyer now. Interesting. Anyway, there's the link. I've put the link in below. I'll try and remember to include the link also into the description of all future live streams, so that you can easily find it and go to it. But yeah, you can go and check out that link, and you can listen to this as a podcast now, the English Shooting podcast. We did think about coming up with a really snazzy, good name, but this is the English Shooting live stream, so it's technically a podcast, so it's the English Shooting podcast. Keep it simple. Spotify is greater than podcaster. Great, I'm on to a winner there. So yeah, you can watch this on the English Shooting podcast. And there was also another point of admin, which is actually what triggered me to talk about this, and then I was going to talk about the other bit of admin afterwards, and now I can't remember. What was it? Anyway, it will come to me. It will come back. Admin. No. Anyway, there's an English Shooting podcast. You can check it out. Please do. Oh yes, there is admin. I've remembered now. The consultation in terms of links. Please go and fill this out. I will be doing a video at some point on it. I know I'm running out of time. Story of my life. You need to follow this link to fill out the survey. And for the time being, if you want some example answers, and you can't be asked to wait for me, which I can sympathise with, then you can use Bask's answers here. Again, I will try and remember to link these also in the comment section. So if you're watching this after the stream, if you're not watching this live, obviously it can be I know it can be an issue with the live feed not really syncing or whatever. There will be a chat section. You should be able to find the links below. Please do go and fill out that consultation, and really need to get a video out this weekend, this Sunday. Really do. That would make a change, wouldn't it? Yeah. So anyway, on the consultation, nice little segue there, seamless as always. The Gun Control Network have actually released their suggested answers to this public consultation. Now, bearing in mind, Bask is hailing this consultation as the most important in 30 years, so we better sit up and pay attention. And the gun control network is just like, oh, it's just so pathetic. Bearing in mind, you know, it sort of tries to convince you that it's some great big organization and it's all knowing and all powerful and all of that stuff, right? And it's when things like this come out that you can really get the flavor that this is just one jilted little old lady that really has nothing better to do, because you know, look, this is their response on what is meant to be the greatest public consultation on firearms licensing within the last 35 years. This is their response about it, right? Whereas you go to Bask, you know, like fair play, Bask have done multiple, I think this one was the first one, multiple articles, you know, some good writing and information. And then this as well, you know, this is what a proper, well, be careful, Callum, a proper organized, you know, association is able to put out, you know, and furthermore detailed, you know, like fairly detailed, not just, you know, yes, they've got their quick one, right? They've got a bit of background. You can see a bit of background there, give you a heads up. They're quick fire, like literally, if you just want to, you know, to know what you should put, this is what we recommend, and then some fairly detailed explanation of why they've done it, and more recently, or why they've chosen those answers. And more recently, last week we saw even more. Let's see if I can find it very quickly. Changes must be evidence-based. I think it might be here. Bask consultation response. There we go. And they've released this, an 11-page document, right? Which I haven't even had time to really delve into, with, you know, half-page explanations of why you should be answering some of these questions, or why they've got to that answer, right? This is professional. This is, again, where credit where credit is due. You know, Bask have finally like switched on to something that is fairly important, right? So a very, very, very good response from what you can say is a professional, well-run, educated organization. Now you look at the gun control's response so far to it, literally not even half a page, and they can't even be bothered to write out every single question, right? The GCN suggests all questions to be answered yes, with the exception of question 2 and 12 and 20, which we suggest should be no. Suggest question 3 be answered yes, then less than 5 years. No explanation there, right? No justification, no explanation, no discussion, no logic, no rationale. Just literally, this is what we think, this is what you should do. Like this is actually more what we've seen from Bask in the past, to be completely honest. But anyway, don't get me started. And they are not happy, right? You know, public consultation on firearms licensing. Government consultation on firearms reform ends Wednesday, the 23rd of August. There's your deadline, Callum. Get going. Following the recent multiple shootings in Plymouth and Skye, the government is consulting the public about some changes to firearms licensing. This is an important opportunity. Why did I click that? This is an important opportunity to affect firearms policy for the future. The consultation process is heavily biased. Is heavily biased in favors of shooters, and though they make up less than 1% of the population, they will respond in great numbers as instructed by their shooting organizations, motivated to ensure that very few changes are made. We need your support to redress the balance, and soon the consultation ends. Midnight on Wednesday, 23rd of August. I'm sorry, but I mean, yeah, okay, tell me something I don't know, but what a load of bollocks from the gun control network. The consultation process is heavily biased in favors of shooters. Sorry, what, how how is the consultation process biased to shooters? Because they've done an online form. Like, the shooters have a disproportionate amount of internet. Like, anybody, whether you're pro or anti-gun, can go on and fill out a consultation. The but, like, what? The consultation process? You mean having a logical discussion about something? Oh yes, okay, all right, yeah. Silly me. That's right. Of course, the gun control network would be disadvantaged, or people that are anti-gun would be very disadvantaged from a process that, in theory, should be based on logical fact and reasoning. I get it. I get why it's so biased towards people that are filled with logic, rationale, and evidence, evidence-based thoughts or opinions. Anybody? Uh, just like you can't make it up. Like, bias. I'm sorry. There is no way our legal system, consultation system, is in any way biased to lawful firearms owners. We've also suggested some comments if you wish to make them in the box at the end of the survey. The Plymouth coroner recommended that shotguns be brought into Section 1 of the Firearms Act 1968, and that household members and independent people should be involved in the licensing process. It is unacceptable that neither of these important changes are being considered. I mean, I haven't seen the gun control network go on for the last 30 years or 25 years. I haven't seen them go on for the last 25 years about the recommendations that were made by the coroner, or recommendations that were made within the Lord Cullen report about more about training and continuous assessment of our firearms licensing departments. You know, you absolute hypocrites. Just like, it's just unbelievable, the drivel, the hypocritical drivel that comes out of these people's mouths, right? It's been proven time and time again. The Lord Cullen report, the coroner's report with Plymouth. You know, Dunblane was down to ineffective, inefficient, inconsistent, untrained or not sufficiently trained firearms licensing, right? The exact same thing happened in Plymouth. Time and time again, it comes down to the standards and the application of our law and the firearms guidance, or firearms law, the application of the firearms law, but also the interpretation of the firearms guidance and the consistency in which that in the firearms guidance is interpreted and the law is applied up and down the country. Back in the Lord Cullen report, one of the main things was about better training, better assessment, and monitoring of our firearms licensing department to make sure that they were applying the law correctly, right? But no, gun control network, you decided to pull everybody down the tangent of getting a particular firearm banned, which actually which resulted in firearm offences and crimes and deaths increasing as a result. And still today, the single largest majority of firearm offences are down to those guns you had banned. You were the ones that ignored it 25 years ago. You ignored the real issue. You ignored the real problem with firearms within the lawful firearms within the UK, and that is effective, efficient firearms licensing departments. So to go on and say that it is it is unacceptable that neither of these important changes are being considered. No, for once, we are actually considering the real issue here, which are the issues with firearms licensing and the application of our firearms law by said firearms licensing departments. And you want to pull people away from that. You want to distract people and pull them on to putting shotguns on section ones and bringing in more people into what is already an overburdened process. You absolute idiots. Finally getting close to hitting the nail on the head of the real issue here with lawful firearms ownership. And you just want to sit there and say it's unacceptable because there's potentially more barriers that could be put up, but you don't care. You actually stop pretending that you actually care about the real issues here. Stop pretending that you actually care about preventing violence and preventing deaths, because if you did, you wouldn't be continuously distracting people from the real bloody issues, and you wouldn't be continuously hailing the banning of handguns as a success, because by every real metric, it was a complete failure. And the fact that we still have instances like Plymouth today, I think, is a shining testament to your failure. Breathe. But anyway, how are the Gun Control Network? How are the Gun Control Network saying that we should answer this consultation? Let's have a quick look through. Do you consider that police should be granted specific power of entry? Or 1 minute, let me make a note because it's going to be a lot easier. So it's yes, with the exceptions of 2, 12, and 20. 2, 12, and 20. So do you consider that the police should be granted specific power of entry without a warrant issued by a magistrate or sheriff to be able to see shotgun, firearms, and ammunition where there's a risk to public safety or the peace, and the certificate holder does not cooperate with the police and agree to a voluntary surrender? Again, we've covered this. It's like they can refuse, they can revoke, right? They already have the power. Of course, Gun Control Networks wants you to say yes to that. Absolutely no bloody way. Mandatory prohibitions. Do you consider that the prohibition prohibit it's getting late and I can't pronounce the prohibition on possessing firearms should be changed from one that is based solely on length of a custodial sentence following conviction to one based more on the nature of the offense? And they've said no. What did Basque actually say on that? Interestingly, they said no as well. Huh? How about that? Catch me outside. Okay, well, Basque and Gun Control Network are in agreement with that. That's very interesting. Number 3, do you consider that the renewal period currently every 5 years for the certificate should be kept under review? If so, is the renewal every 5 years the right period of time, or should it be changed to a shorter or longer period? They've said yes to that, and they've said that you should be saying less than 5 years, of course, because they want to overburden our firearms license departments even more than they're currently burdened, because they don't live in the real world. Do you consider people applying for shotgun certificates should provide 2 referees? They've said yes. Do you consider that at least one of the referees should be a person of certain standing in the community? They've said yes. Do you consider that referees should be able to demonstrate good knowledge of the applicant's circumstances? They've said yes. Do you consider that the application form should include a checklist for referees on the information that should provide to the police? They've said yes. Do you consider that the statutory guidance should include more detailed guidance for the police on the information they should be looking to elicit from referees? They said yes. I do actually agree with them on that one. I think more prescription is needed. Because prescription should lead to more consistency. Do you consider the police should look at the circumstances when individual change referees between applications renewals? They've said yes. Do you consider that the sharing of unique application reference numbers by applicant with their referees would make it easier for referees to report concerns? They've said yes. Do you consider that the content in the statutory guidance should be expanded and be made more prescriptive in relation to the suitability checks carried out by police for firearms? They've said yes. Do you consider that the balance of probability test is the correct test to apply in the statutory guidance? They've said no. Do you consider that neural developmental disorders should be added to the list of relevant medical conditions? They've said yes, because of course it's more barriers to put. Oh no, they've said yes to put more barriers. Nitsa, thank you very much. Thank you very much for the support, Callum. You know the camera you have that clipped onto a peak cap. Can you post a link to where I can buy one? I can't find them anywhere. Thanks. Quickly pause on that. Again, appreciate the support, Nitsa. It's an Insta 360. It's not actually myself that has one, although I've been meaning to pick one up for a very long time. It's actually Paul Wyborn. So it's Paul, super pistol shooter Paul. So he definitely wants one of these for his birthday or Christmas. It's the he doesn't have, this is the latest and greatest, but it's so much better. I'd recommend going for it. So it's the Insta 360 Go 3, which is the latest one. And I don't know if it comes with the cap clip accessories. Let me just bring this up. So anybody that, like, seriously, these things, that's the clip that I think you're talking about. These things are taking the shooting world by storm. Like, so many people use them because they're so small. I have to admit that when I first tried them out in Florida for the Pan Ams, if you have a beard and a particularly large chin, as I found out, where did it go? This, I think, there we go. Is that stop it, Ron. I got basically beard cam. I would recommend putting it on the cap, but that's right, because Paul had the cap mount, and I ended up using the chest magnet mount, and that's why I ended up with a lot of beard cam. But as you can see, think it comes with this. I'll double check, but that's the cap clip. It's the Insta 360 Go. You don't notice it's on. The post processing on it is great. The stabilization is great. It's for the size of camera, the quality is perfect as well. And just as a general recommendation, I would recommend people pick one up for your shooting. I've been meaning to pick one up for a very long time. So there you go. Hope that helps, Nitsa. Back to Gun Control Network's answers. Do you consider GP's engagement with the firearms licensing process should be made mandatory? They've said yes. I have to say, they haven't gone as batshit as I thought they might have, to be completely honest. Do you consider that interim medical checks should be made on licensed firearms holders between the grants of certificate and any application to renew? They've said yes. Do you consider that the digital marker for use by GPs with medical records of licensed firearms holders should be visible to other health professionals? They've said yes. I think Bask said yes on that one as well, which again I don't necessarily agree with. Do you consider that there should be more mental health advice and support for licensed firearms holder through example advice leaflets and other support? They've said yes. Again, don't necessarily disagree with this. Do you consider a specific phone line should be introduced in addition to the services already available to report concerns about licensed firearms holders? Yes, they've said yes. Of course they have, because apparently the Gun Control Network hasn't heard of 101 or 999. How, in principle, should any specific phone line be funded? They've said, have they missed? So they haven't even given proper answers. Fucking idiots. So how in principle should any specific phone line be funded? Yes. that is actually the official gun control network answer to that question. How in principle should any specific phone line be funded? Yes. Yes, it should just be funded. They haven't. This is it. This is why these people should not be given any voice or any validity in the discussion of firearms law. They can't even go through the consultation, like, and give you proper answers. Like, it's not difficult. You're just a shoddy one-man band organization, aren't you? Do you consider that it would be better to raise awareness of existing avenues open to raise concern about a licensed firearms holder, 909, 101, Crime Steppers, force firearms licensing contacts, then create a new um, phone line service? No. So sorry, you think it's so their answer is they're suggesting no. So they think it would be better in raising awareness. It would be better to plow more money into a phone line, a specific phone line, and it would be better to spend money on raising awareness of that new phone line than just using the money to raise awareness that people can phone existing for. Like, basically, the gun control network wants to set fire to money for absolutely no reason, almost like paying for all the compensation for handguns that were confiscated. No bigger setting fire of money to do with firearms in the last 25 years that achieved noble. Anyway, I'm very ranty tonight. I like it. Everyone's in danger. Some people are in more danger than others, but I am keeping my mouth shut. Anyway, let's well, there's a couple of more articles, a couple of more stories. A pretty sad one, actually. United Utilities, so it's a water company. Obviously, water companies tend to own quite a lot of land, and they have previously rented that land out to, or leased that land out to keepers and shoot managers, so that they can be shot on. Not them. That shooting can take place on lawful shooting can take place on these lands, and by lawful shooting I mean game shooting. Game shooting is pretty big here within the UK, but they have said that I think it's by 2027 they are hoping to have retracted all shooting permissions or all shooting leases from the gamekeepers and shoot managers, and it's really, really sad, right? Because what they I think this really highlights it, and this is something that I've learned with the game shooting that I've done, and people that I've met within game shooting, is like, yes, I have to say that I was guilty. I put my hands up when somebody said, let's, pheasant shooting, grouse shooting, partridge shooting, whatever, just game shooting in general. You like, the instant thing that would pop into my head is probably an older gentleman with far too much money than sense, and wanted to go and spend it on shooting rather expensive birds out of the sky. And that's really it's like saying that all motorsports is F1, right? Yeah, it might be the very top, the very pinnacle, and the most expensive. There might be more expensive forms of motorsport, but yeah, it might be the very, very top. But there are so many different leagues below, right? Within motorsports, you have stuff like the Civic or the Clio Cup, which is actually very affordable. It's still, still talking thousands of pounds, but for the price of one wheel nut in an F1 car, you can get into racing, right? So you have levels, and actually the majority of people involved in game shooting aren't these what Basque has said, aren't these big posh entitled grouse shoots. There's a lot of these people that are running these shoots and are take advantage of shoots on these lands are down to earth, normal people, grassroots shooters. And if anything, removing that sort of land where a lot of these grassroots shooters are shooting is only going to make game shooting more exclusive. It's going to make it harder for people to do, more expensive to do. If it's the commercial shoots that the only ones that are available that are charging £1,500 a peg up for a £300 day, that's all that's available at that point. Rather than these more communal, perhaps walk up days or syndicates, more accessible, more sort of everyman shoots. And they, of course, Bass go on to say as well, a shoot is not a standalone entity. And this is what a lot of the time people don't get, is the economy around shooting and game shooting, and also the good that it does in terms of land management. There are huge, expansive areas of land that would be effective wastelands, would be effectively uninhabitable, unwalkable, unenjoyable, if it wasn't for the upkeep that the upkeep that takes place due to the game shooting that is going on that land. And then also you have, you remove game shooters, right? You remove game shooting from certain areas. Pubs and hotels are going to lose out. Local businesses are going to lose out from the tourism, from the trade that are coming in and out. People are going to lose their jobs. It takes a lot of people to run a game shoot. So the gamekeeper is going to lose his job because there's no game to keep anymore, right? And other people that are managing the land and managing the birds and managing the days are going to lose jobs. So yeah, it seems to be very political, PC to not endorse shooting and not let your land be used for shooting. But actually, it's one of these things that fast forward 5, 10, 20 years. You will see the massive damage that is being caused by not allowing the shooting going on. Callum has had too much Pepsi Max. Is Connors safe? Connors is absolutely fine. He's good and in safe hands. So yeah, it's just a shame. It's just one of these sort of attacks that we tend to get, and that we have to continuously deal with. The last one, which I haven't actually watched any videos of, but I can only imagine. Now, it's very American, very Second Amendment, but the reason this stood out for me for a few reasons, right? So first of all, Curly on the War. When I was first doing English shooting, when I first really got into watching a lot of gun YouTubers, I must have started watching him so early on. I remember before he did any reviews, it was all about sort of Second Amendment. It was about the law. It was about protecting the rights of firearms owners, and he used to do all the videos from his desk, right? And that's one of the things, like that sort of style resonated with me, and I've always watched his stuff. I've always liked Colonel on the War, and when he started doing gun reviews, it was just like, they've always been so enjoyable to watch. But the one thing that has always mesmerized me about what Colonel on the War does is how eloquent he is, and how succinct his points are, how humorous he can be in his points, and just the way he delivers stuff. It's really engaging, it's really informative, and it's really it's really inspiring in some ways. You really get across the passion, and I could think of nothing more, nothing better in terms of a firearms debate than watching Coley on the War go head to head with the likes of David Hogg. Again, a very illogical, irrational fearmongerer when it comes to firearms. I get it. He was put in a situation which was horrific. His school was attacked by a shooter, and it could have been him. I get he's how that might affect somebody, and certainly spur somebody on to want to go against gun control, go against gun ownership. But it is funny. So the backstory to this basically is David Hogg had agreed to do a debate at I think it was a university. So David Hogg backed out of a debate. So spoiler alert, was backed out of a debate that was scheduled by Inter Collegiate Studies Institute and the Center for the Study of Liberal Democracy, when he found out his opponent would be Kolion. Yeah, like you could understand why. And what Kolion Noir has said is the problem with the problem with the gun debate in this country is there is no debate because the only people willing to debate is the pro Second Amendment community. Well, I can say, Kolion, that is not just the case in America. Not necessarily about the Second Amendment thing, but that is the same issue that we have here. The likes of the gun control network, the likes of the families of Dunblane and all of the large anti-gun groups, the groups that are pushing for more gun control here within the UK, they don't want to have a debate. They don't want to have a logical, reasonable, rational discussion about things, right? They've made their minds up and they just want everybody else to kowtow to what they think is right. And that's the issue. That's why we get these laws that do absolutely nothing to help the real issues that we have. They end up causing more issues and wasting ridiculous amounts of taxpayers' money because nobody wants to have the debate. Nobody wants to sit there and have the discussion. And the thing that really scares them, right? Even people as passionate as pro-gun as myself, right? I'm open to having my mind changed, right? I've said it before. If somebody was to able to lay out, I am going to live in their world for a second, but if somebody was to come to me and say, actually, if we banned this, right? We banned, this gun, they could show like they could show the evidence, categoric evidence. They placed it down and go, if we were to ban Remington 870 shotguns, there would never be a single death by firearms ever again, right? And they could, just something ridiculous like that, right? And they could, as much as I would never want to see any further controls or see, any guns being banned, if we reached a point where we actually did this and this, and overall a very little effect to your sport, very little effect to firearms ownership, but we could solve gun crime, we could solve firearm deaths or prevent all firearms death, like I'd be opening to going, actually, that sounds like a pretty good compromise. I'm on one side of the fence, you're on the other, but we've got this really good solution. Am I completely happy with it? No, but the results seem to be pretty good. We're open to rational, reasonable, logical discussion, right? And we are open to having our minds changed, and that scares the hell out of them because they could never comprehend that. They could never comprehend ever having their minds changed from what they want, and that's why there's never any debate. Because if somebody is unwilling to have their mind change, if somebody is unwilling to see something from the other person's point of view, then you're not having a debate, you're having an argument, right? And it's pointless. Nobody's ever going to win and nothing good is ever going to come from it, which is why I'm so passionate about having these discussions, actually approaching these difficult topics, because they need to be talked about. You need to, air it out and be disagreed with, be agreed with, be disagreed with, come up with some middle ground. It's it's what I would like to see in terms of firearms ownership. You know, probably isn't the right thing. Probably how I would like to see things. Probably might lead to a little bit more crime here and there, right? So, as somebody that is like absolutely, as programmed as I am, like everybody needs a bit of mediation, right? And the way you mediate things is by discussing them, is by putting them out in the open and having rational debates about them. So I find it interesting. I think it really does sum it up, just how anti-gunners are having any sort of reasonable logical explanation. you know that would be incredibly interesting for both sides to see, and yet they don't want to. They're too scared to. Um, but anyway, make sure you've hit that like button. We finally have more likes, and we do have people watching that, because that is because we have reached the end of tonight's stream. We got there in the end. But yeah, I hope everyone you've enjoyed this evening. There we go. Bring myself up big. Mm. I hope you've enjoyed it. Actually, I feel, despite a fair amount of ranting, I've felt it's gone pretty well. Let me know what you think about it. If you're watching this after the fact, you can use the comment section below before you all leave, or whether you're watching this live or recorded. Hit that like button and make sure you are subscribed. You can also listen to this on Spotify as well. There should be a link in the description or comment section somewhere. Go and check it out. If not, if you can't find it, it's also on the English Shooting Facebook page. You should also head over and hit a like, because all of the most recent up-to-date news is on there. Anything big that happens, I tend to share on there. But yeah, I think that's what about all for tonight, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks for joining and being part of the stream. As always, I really appreciate all you guys joining and getting involved. I hope you all have a shooting filled week ahead, and we will be back same place, same time next week, Thursday, 8:30 p.m. 8:30 p.m. UK time. Oh, I think it's about time. There we go, guys. Of course, again, thanks for watching. Hit that like button. Make sure you subscribed, and of course, as always, hope to see you soon.